One out of two, one out of two, one out of two. That's all that keeps happening to me the last few weeks on Doubling Down. So I brought my girl, Lady Zenyatta, into the scene to see if we can get some luck this week as we go to Keeneland. And I brought in a special guest who's going to help the guest bankroll, which is, I think, minus $1,000 right now. What is up, everybody? My name is Colin Sheehan. This is Doubling Down with Colin Sheehan, and I'm joined by Jeff from Charting Horse Value this week to try and bring in some winners for the Daily Double. Jeff, what's happening?
It's great. I'm happy to be a part of the double. The Daily Double is what inspired me to start Charting Horse Value way back when.
Really?
I hit a Santa Anita double. It's on my website, I think somewhere in there buried. But I hit like a $600 double, just, a couple random races at Santa Anita. And after that, I said, I got to start this website. This is too good. So yeah, I love the Daily Double. Happy to be on your show.
Then we're like a double meant to happen, I guess you could say. But I will warn you, Jeff, you're walking into a hotbed of losers for guests on my show. I've kept track. They're not all there. I try to keep some of the ones you'll recognize. Last week, we had an urban handicapper, and he singled reincarnate. I singled reincarnate as well, but I hit West Willpower in the first leg. 29 races, 29 shows. I've always been in the green. I was up to about 60, but since I hit 60, it's been a free-falling plummet down to $8. So I'm a little nervous. I don't want to hit the red. But I show this to you, Jeff, because there's no pressure. You can't do any worse than any guest that's been on my show other than El Hombre.
Good. Well, yeah, I'm not too worried. I think I have a very skinny ticket, so I don't think I'm going to make the screen, even if I lose.
That's easy. We are going to go to Keeneland for the Bluegrass, and we're going to couple it with the race prior. That is race 8 for Saturday, April 8th. You have a field of 12 with an also entered there. I'll tell a little story because whenever I see this horse, number 7, Noble Emotion, you know how you have those horses that at some point in their life, no one else will remember Noble Emotion, but I will, because on Travers Day weekend, the NHC free tournament, which gets 2,000 entries, right? I talked with Vinny about Noble Emotion on this show, and I made a change on that race. I took off Noble Emotion. Noble Emotion won, and I finished 15th out of 1,800 that day. Noble Emotion, if I just kept that the same, would have gotten me my free ride to the NHC. But I digress. That's just my own personal story about Noble Emotion. I won't be picking them today. What did you see when you looked at race 8 at Keeneland on Saturday?
Well, there's a bunch of horses coming off a layoff. I mean, I think 1, 2, 3, 7 of the horses are coming off a 4-month layoff or longer. That makes it tricky. I have a chart, I don't know if you plan on showing that, but
I will. Let's bring it up.
Yep. Yeah, I could talk about that a little bit. Yeah. So sure. I got the chart there. Now, this is a 5.5 furlong sprint. I like speed. Okay. So you could look on the pace column and you could look for the F horses. Those are their speed horses. The F for front runner. There's 3 of them. And the Artemis City Limits is by far the fastest, the early speed of 117. And that 3-hole is an ideal draw for turf sprints. And with that kind of early speed, that horse is going to get an absolute dream trip. Artemis City Limits. The Nobody Listens is also eligible, might not even draw in. And then the other horse down there, Johnny Unleashed, is on the 1 hole, probably going to get put away early. But, worst case, Artemis City Limits is just galloping with Johnny Unleashed to his inside. So they get a dream trip. Yeah, so I like speed. The other thing I like to look at is that energy column. And you'll see Artemis City Limits and Arrest Me Red both get 100. And I like to see horses that are within 5 points of that. And there's only 3 other horses within 5 points. Baker's Bay, who I think you might like a little bit. A closer, though. I'm not a big fan of closers and grass sprints. Nobody Listens, you're also eligible. And then the favorite, Caravel, who, you know, I'm going to fade that favorite. Certainly not the best, in my opinion, not the best horse in the race. So that's an easy horse to fade. Well, who do you like? Before I keep going, you know, I could talk forever. Who do you like?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have done a better job of introducing this product. So Jeff is from Charting Horse Value, which you can find him on Twitter. He posts these. You can also go to his website, which he will give you. But that is what you're seeing right now, and this is what Jeff uses. And if you follow him on Twitter, you'll see that he gives out some awesome prices using this. And that last column is something that we're going to get into and talk about. But before we do that, I do want to talk about Caravel, because this is a horse that's running back from the Breeders' Cup, who won at a big price on Breeders' Cup Saturday. If you followed me on this show, if you followed me on Twitter, there's one thing that I have talked about, and I read this book called The Complete Handicapper, and it talks about winners out of the Breeders' Cup races should be expected to lose next time. The vast majority of the heroes will be past their peak. The majority will falter next time out, with several ending out of the money, and because they're Breeders' Cup winners, they take a lot of that money, so you can find prices in those races. Well, you start to think about, okay, Caravel, that was November. So sure, if a horse comes right out of a Breeders' Cup race, maybe, you know, the trainers really get them ready for that race on Breeders' Cup Day. And then maybe if they're running January, February. So I was wondering, do I fade Caravel because it's been long enough? Well, page 2 of The Complete Handicapper talks about that exactly. The Breeders' Cup winners will be more likely to lose if they return to action within a traditional, 90 days. Yet any extended layoffs create problems of another kind. The rested horses will both be past their prime and short of peaking form. The competition may be of lower order, but it will be rough and the odds will be uninspiring. And I think this caption speaks perfectly what I saw here with Caravel. And I, along with you, am fading Caravel. I'd rather some of those horses that have been racing more recently. And you talked about Baker's Bay. The reason I liked Baker's Bay, as you mentioned, is a closer. It was the only closer I really saw in this race, and it had just raced January, February, March. So as far as coming in with some little bit of form, at 10-1, if I'm fading a favorite like Caravel, I hate to miss. So I'd rather kind of spread a little bit and try and cover some of the other horses, especially at what could be a price, which is why I did like that for Baker's Bay. I will also bring up your sheet here because I handicapped on my own before you sent this to me for the show. So I don't want to act like I looked at your sheet and then threw in this 2 mark of the Z. I noticed in the right column, which I want you to explain to our viewers, a B. To me, that it must be a positive. But what I saw when I was going through the past performances is, look at this horse on the turf at this distance. 14 races, 12 times in the money, 6 victories. Now, I understand those races are allowance. Obviously, you're stepping up here for sure into a grade 2. You're racing against Breeders' Cup champion. But if you cycle out those races that have been on the dirt and just look at the 5.5 furlongs on the grass, I think you have something here at 20-1 that, as I said, if I'm fading Caravel, I don't want to miss on a horse that I'm kind of interested in, which is Mark of the Z. You have a B in the right column. That makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Tell us what that B means, and is it something that I should keep on my ticket?
Yeah, I'm going to have it on my ticket as well. I like that B. So a B horse, I actually just did a big video as well. People could check out. My website's chartinghorsevalue.com, and there's a new blog and there's a video on YouTube for Oakland. And the B horses are winning, I think, 20-something percent. Nice. I can't remember the number, but they're winning, they're winning at a high percent, 18% maybe. So, that horse gets a B for a couple of reasons. You'll see that little 1 in the rank column. Mm-hmm. That means the horse ranks first in one of 5 categories as I look at. And although it's very close, very competitive race, that horse ranks first on the jockey-trainer connection. And so that's why it's getting the B. Horse also has a little bit of value. You see the best odds. Horse is 18-1, and that's better than 20-1. So the horse gets $1 of value. Obviously, it's not much value, but it's something there. So the horse is, a legitimate long shot. And, I think the horse has got a shot.
Yeah, we talked about Artemis City Limits. I have Artemis City Limits on my ticket as well. But what jumped out to me is Arrest Me Red has the A+ on the top there. And look at that value, 23 in the green. Arrest Me Red, the one concern I had was very similar to what I said about Caravel. This horse hasn't raced in 5 months and is coming out of that same Breeders' Cup race. So I'm being a little bit hypocritical, but didn't do much in that Breeders' Cup. Why do you have Arrest Me Red as an A+, do you think?
Well, the horse has the best PFDS odds. So in my opinion, that's the most likely winner. A couple other things you'll see on this chart. You'll see that little D in form cycle. That's a horse dropping in class. Obviously dropping out of a Breeders' Cup race. Really good PFDS odds. And at 1.7 to 1, you compare that to the morning line of 4.5, 9 to 2. That's $23 of value. That's a legitimate play. A+s are great bets, especially when they're on top of the chart, which this one is. So sometimes you'll get the A+ to be buried a little bit further down on the chart. Not quite as good a bet, but I think that's a great bet, the 12. I was going to just do the 312 in this race, the early speed, and then the of course the top horse there, but then I looked hard at that Mark of the Z with that B down there, good jockey trainer. I said I'm gonna throw that 2 in there. Now you're showing this as a simple $1, double 2, 3, 12 with 3.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably play this. Scale. I would scale these doubles. Like I would play maybe, let's say I had a $20 bankroll. I might play Mark of the Z 3 times. I might pay Artemis City Limits 7 times, and then maybe Arrest Me Red 10 times. Okay, something like that. I would I would look at the payoffs, the double will pays, and I would scale the bets to approximately get the same return, regardless of which one starts off my double. This is one of the ways I like to play doubles, leading into a horse. You'll see the horse later we're leading into. And I love doing it this way. So let's say I have a $20 bankroll per race. Then I can scale these doubles just like I mentioned, and I'm only risking $20. And if I lose, fine. I lost $20. That's my bankroll. That's my budget per race. If I hit it, now I'm alive to that 3 for a much bigger return than if I just simply bet $20 to win on that 3. For example, let's say the 12 wins. I got a $10 double. That's going to pay much bigger than whatever I'm going to get 20 to win on the 3. So I like to play doubles this way. Another way I like to play doubles is just ice cold. I couldn't do it this race because I like the 3 and the 12. But if I really like a horse in this race, let's say I like Arrest Me Red. The horse is 4.5 to 1, okay? And then I like the 3 in the next race. So I could play $16 to win and a $4 double. And then I'm basically betting $20 on Arrest Me Red to win, but I'm putting 4 of it in the double pool. And if it pays off, the 12 wins, now I'm alive to the 3 with at least $20 alive, and I'm going to get lower takeout because I'm only playing a takeout once on the double instead of 2 win takeouts. So it's a great way to play the double ice cold and lower your overall takeout. But you're playing a win bet with your double. That's another way I like to play it. But this time, I'm just going to lead into that 3.
Yeah, and that's really smart. And that's one of the reasons I do this show is because I think everyone focuses on the longer jackpots, pick 3, pick 4, pick 5s. I do those every now and then. But for people starting out, that is excellent advice. And the advice that I'm always trying to tell people is look at those probable pools. Look at what your payouts will be, because you don't want to, you might go as I do this show on a Thursday, it's hard to really get into that betting as you run up to post time. But you're looking at those probables and you're saying, okay, this horse is going to, give me 4 times my money. This one's only going to, if you're playing them all the same, is only going to get my money back. So you're right. You'd want to heavy load what it is based on probables. And you can do that in the exacta pool as well. So be sure you're using that as a tool to know what your payouts are going to be, because that is extremely important. Speaking of that 3, let's take a look at the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland. That 3 is verifying out of the Brad Cox barn with Tyler Gaffley own aboard. I was curious to see, I think this, as me and Matt did our preview of this race, you're a little top heavy maybe with Tappet Trice and Verifying. There's some other horses. There's one other horse that I really like other than those two, but let's take a look at the charts at the Bluegrass for Saturday, April 8th. This is a Kentucky Derby points. Winner gets 100 points towards the, the standings for the Kentucky Derby gate. You got a little bit more letters on the right. I see an S and a B plus. I know that that's good, and you've single Verifying. So let's hear how you saw this race.
Well, again, we'll talk about the letter grades in a minute, but first of all, the horses are always sorted by PFDS odds. That's not the only factor I look at, and the letter grades take into account much more than that. But that is a really good top to bottom sort, and I sort it like that so make people pay attention to it. Verifying sits on top. Now, this race does not have a lot of speed. There's only 2 front runners, and one of them is Major Blue, who is a big long shot. Verifying is going to get an absolute dream trip.
Yep, exactly.
On the front. I hope I get that 3-1. His form is not that great. He's coming out of the Rebel, I think, or maybe it was the
Rebel. Yep.
The Rebel. Okay. He's coming out of the Rebel. It was a sloppy track. The pace was fast. He faded to 4th, which wasn't a horrible effort. Confidence Game, Red Rot 1, and Reincarnate finished ahead of him, all 3 legitimate horses. But he faded. It was in the slop, and he set a fast pace. I think he's going to set a slow pace. Now, I don't know what the track conditions are going to be. There's definitely been some weather there, but hopefully he gets a reasonable track condition as well. I just think he's a solid horse, and I like him better than Tappet Trice, who – the other thing you see here is this early speed, late speed, ESLS. And notice how Tappet Trice has this giant late speed number, 103.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing, I guess. He's stretching out. It's good you got late speed, but I'd like to see a little more tactical speed. And that horse was, I just thought, was all in the backstretch, wasn't making up any ground on anybody. And, obviously has a really long stride and came home quickly to win impressively. But the effort was strange to me. It was a strange effort. And I'm not taking a horse that's got a strange running style at 5-2 or lower, and people love this horse. This horse is going to get bet down.
Yeah.
Then Blazing Sevens has not impressed me this year. Sun Thunder got beat bad in his last. I think if you like Tappet Trice, you got to like Classic Car Wash. Yep. Only finished a couple lengths behind him, and 3, 4, 5 times the price. I think that's a decent long shot. Classic Car Wash.
Yeah, Tappet Trice, part of that early speed being so slow is he's been breaking so bad. The inside post maybe won't be as bad because he doesn't need to get out. He can just break bad again, and may not get as bad of a trip. But I think he's overrated. Don't let Alombre hear that. He's head over heels over this horse. But from the Tampa Bay Derby, and you mentioned Classic Car Wash, I would much rather be have Classic Car Wash on my ticket than I would Tappet Trice. But I think Verifying has a lot more to give, and I think you're getting a little value because of that 4th place in the Rebel. And I'm hoping as well that he's going to come back and run a big race. I do like Blazing Sevens, actually. I never thought I would say that through this whole going back to September, August, October, as I follow on the Derby horses. Blazing Sevens was never really one I've been too excited about. But as I went through this race, I like the 6-1 price. I like that Irad gets aboard Blazing Sevens. Irad's obviously been taken up by Forte. That's where Irad's going. Look at the horse. I was going to say horses. Look at the horse that Blazing Sevens lost to. Forte, and his other 2 races were wins. So Irad getting aboard, if you just kind of cross out the race off the layoff, which was the Fountain of Youth, where he had some trouble early, really fell back. I'm going to take a shot with Chad Brown, a horse sired by Good Magic out of by Curlin, which I'm always draws my eye, as they say, and is a Grade 1 winner back at Belmont. He was in the mud at a mile. So I'm going to go with 3 and the 6, Blazing Sevens and Verifying. I do like Verifying a lot. Anyone else that maybe grabbed your attention, or is that kind of where you're sticking?
So 3 and the 8, I think is what you're saying. And just, you know, as I look at the past performances on the 8, you're right. Making second start of his career of the year. Sorry, making second start of the year, and eligible to improve. That's why he gets that 2-3 in the form cycle.
Okay.
So, and then the horse also gets the B for letter grade. Again, the best jockey trainer combination again with Chad Brown and who'd you say was Irad?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty logical play. I like that play. 3-8. I'm gonna go skinny here with just the 3, but I got no qualms with how you're looking at it.
Can you you said PFDS odds. So for those of us that don't use this product a lot, and you said it ranks them by that, can you just give us a quick sense of what that means and what it is?
Yeah, so I analyze every past performance. I do a mathematical calculation for every single past performance, and then I translate that performance I give it a figure, and then I translate that performance to today's conditions. Distance surface is the DS, pace is the P, and F is the fitness, okay? So pace, fitness, distance, surface is all factored in. I look at every single past performance, and this works for European horses, for Japanese horses. This works everywhere, okay? And it's a very, very good system. I've been using PFDS odds now for almost 30 years. So I totally believe in it. The best odds tries to find a long shot, okay? It's trying to isolate on a single race and give you basically a best case scenario. For this particular race, best odds is not particularly helpful. The horse that gets the best odds is Race Cane, who's 9-2. Certainly logical, but I like to try to find a long shot with best odds, and it's really not too helpful in this particular race. And then the value is comparing the lower of those two odds lines to the morning line. And so the best value is verifying. And then the best combination of letter grade and value gets the plus. So that's also verifying. And then rarely I'll give out this little S for spot play. This is a horse that has really good value, really good letter grade, and no weakness, no glaring holes. And verifying fits that perfectly. So this horse, an SB plus, pretty solid bet. And that's the direction I'll be going.
How many S's do you normally see on a card? Is there one per race? Does it just it depends?
I would say one per card.
Okay.
So for the entire Oaklawn meet since December, I've only had 43 S's. So, you know, that's pretty uncommon. But I would say at least one a card. It's typical.
Nice. So and you said on the PFDS fitness, how does it determine what is fitness? Is it raced recently? Is it workouts?
Yep, both.
Okay.
It's both, yeah. So you look over in that fitness column and you see all those Qs. So Q means it qualifies. So there's no degradation. Occasionally, or quite often, sometimes, especially claiming races, you'll see like an N. And so an N horse, so maybe go back to race 8. Let's take a look at that. Let's see if there's any N's. So you see those N's.
There's a couple, actually.
Yeah. And so, in fact, you got the one there stitched N7. That's an N horse coming off a 7-month layoff. So, I mean, I don't like that kind of horse. The Q5, I mean, I don't love layoff horses. 5 months, it's a long time. But at least those horses have good workouts and still qualified as a Q. But you can also qualify as a Q just because you ran recently. So Q basically says, I expect the horse to run their race. I don't see a reason to downgrade the horse. If the horse gets an N, they get a small downgrade. It's not significant. It's like 13%. They get a small downgrade, but they will get it.
I could geek out about this stuff all day. It's so awesome that you've taken this product and applied it to races. And I just love hearing different voices on this show, and being able to kind of walk through this is so cool. You've put together a double. We'll bring that back up again for the people, as we like to say. Jeff goes skinny. I've only got $8 left in my bank account, so if he hits, I hit. So hopefully the product comes through. Jeff goes 2-3-12 with verifying as a single for $3. I go 2-3-4-12 with 3-8. That'll cost you $8. Jeff, as I like to tell the viewers, if we're costing you $3 and $8, you can't call and complain. If we're doing a pick 5 and I cost you $80, $90, then I'm a target for hate. So $3 and $8, you can just skip your Starbucks coffee tomorrow, and you'll make it through.
Hey, you can play it 5 times, and for my ticket, you play it 5 times, only spend 15. Like I said, I would probably scale my bets, betting various amounts on the 2, 3, and 12 into that 3. But yeah, I mean, the double's a fun bet, and I really appreciate you having me on your show. Customers, if you like what you saw, hey, join up. You can join up now for $30, and that will cover you all of Keeneland and the Kentucky Derby. Awesome. So, that's pretty good, $30.
Absolutely. That's Jeff Charting Horse. It's chartinghorsevalue.com, correct?
Yep.
So check him out. You can also follow him on Twitter. What is it on Twitter? CHV?
Info at chartingho1.
There we go. I'm Colin Sheehan. This is Doubling Down. We're going to get another daily double for you. And good luck, everybody, with the final 3 prep races for the Kentucky Derby. We'll see you next week.